Chapter 9. Thanks to the invention of all kinds of handy cleaning chemicals and supplies, it only took me 2 hours to clean the kiln room, and then myself. Per my usual, I took a shower that consisted of 20 minutes of scalding hot water and lavender soap for its calming effect, which is what I desperately needed at the time. The art of murder was never easy, but the other half of you that took pleasure in not only causing pain to others, but causing pain to yourself, made it much worse. There was always that part of myself that wanted to end it all. If I just took myself out of the equation, Hyde would also be gone, and this blasted curse would end with me. But self-preservation always won out. Now, with Dax's death at my own possessed hands, I truly wanted to crawl under that suicidal rock I found myself in on some occasions. It was nice and cold and dark under there, and yet somehow I always managed to pull myself out. Rushing to the gallery, I knew Hannah would be okay with me being late coming in, but I knew Lauren wouldn't be thrilled. I could just see her now, tapping one exquisitely shoed foot on the polished hardwood floor, arms crossed and eyes stern. It wasn't because me being late made her look bad. It was because she would get stuck with the backlog of work that came with each showing she had to consult on my behalf, and we were always booking showings. I was running down the sidewalk toward the gallery, not even 5 minutes away, when my cell phone rang. The Dexter theme song rang out, beckoning me to answer the phone. The ringtone wasn't special to anyone in particular. In all honesty, I used it for everyone, so I didn't have to keep up with which ringtone belonged to whom. Looking at the screen, Lauren's name and contact photo popped up. This elicited a frustrated sigh as I slid my thumb over it to unlock it and answer. Her voice was shrill as she echoed from my speakers. I pulled the phone away from my ear for a second and then gingerly put it back. Yes, Lauren, I know I'm late. I called Hannah to let her know, I reassured her as I slowed down to a walk instead of a sprint. You have a new painting here that she wants you to look at. I just thought I'd call you before it gets handed to me. She paused, and the tension coming through the line was grating. To be honest, this one's fucking creepy. It's all you, baby, and the artist is getting a little antsy waiting to hear from us. She's called a few times this morning already. Once we let her know what you want to do, we may run the whole collection, but she wanted you to see the main work first. Well, I'm literally just a few minutes away. That's if I can get off the phone. That was the hint she needed. She muttered a goodbye and hung up, letting me speed back up to a run as soon as I threw the phone into my purse. For instances like this, I always had an emergency pair of flats and a large purse to throw a pair of black heels in. As a matter of fact, I always had a pair in there, waiting for just the right occasion, when Hyde went overboard, and I was in a rush. Within minutes, I pushed through the doors and was being greeted by Lauren, whose arms were crossed, tapping her foot on the floor just like I knew she would be. She opened her mouth, and before she could say a word, I put my hand up and said, I know. I was practically out of breath and trying my best to catch it when I removed the flats one at a time and placed them back with my black heels. Why black? They went with everything, especially a blue button-up and black slacks. What the hell took you so long? Have you a manicure or something? Man meat refuse to leave this morning? What the actual hell, Blythe? She picked up one of my hands and examined my nails, which were just cut short and painted plain as usual, covered in clear polish. She dropped it and rolled her eyes. Obviously not. Like usual. Just a little bit of an emergency, but everything's okay now. I clapped my hands together in mock enthusiasm and asked, "Where's this painting?" She crooked her finger and I followed her obligingly when she moved toward the back of the gallery. We both clicked the entire way there, our heels echoing through the gallery. It was empty and quiet, just like every other day, when there wasn't a gallery showing that night. Those days, things were buzzing with energy. This was more of a quiet hum, with the prospect of booking a new artist, and the hush of the place aside from our footsteps was a welcoming sound. The air left my lungs once I saw the painting, even from a distance. It was stunning. The edges were black with an oval of aqua surrounding the central figure. This one was definitely more up my alley than most others I had the pleasure of consulting on, and I knew, with the rush of art in the horror genre, that this one would garner some attention. It was a woman with red hair, a slim nude body, and pale skin that was spattered with blood. One hand was held out and up, crimson pouring down from a palm toward her elbow and on the verge of dripping onto the canvas below. The other held a human heart. But that wasn't what struck me the most about it. The central figure had one green eye and one brown. The brown ringed in red, like she'd been crying, as well as a little bloodshot. In that moment, I connected more with this painting than any other I'd ever seen, even more than my own work. This woman reminded me so much of myself and my relationship with the violent and demonic side of my soul that murdered unsuspecting men after taking advantage of their bodies. And I was still breathless as I stared at it, biting my fingernail without even realizing it. This is why I tried to keep shorter nails. This, and also the fact that I used charcoal, and it had a tendency to get stuck deep underneath, not to mention Hyde's use, would make keeping longer ones a real bitch. As I inspected the artwork, I noticed a large smear of blood on her chest, running from her belly and in between her exposed breasts, ending in a splatter up her collarbone. This woman reminded me so much of myself that I nearly turned away from it. But my eyes were stuck to the canvas, like when you see a car crash and you just can't look away. It didn't matter how gory or heinous what you were witnessing was. You couldn't stop staring. "Blythe," Lauren whispered as I stared mesmerised at the piece in front of me. "You okay?" Not even looking at her, I acknowledged her with a "yes," followed with "I'm fine," pointing at the painting like it was the only thing in the room. I probed, "Are the rest like this?" Lauren nodded in response. I didn't see the movement, but I knew she had done it. "They're all based on this same figure. It's part of a collection about the duality that we fight with. The artist can better explain the theme to you. I just know this one creeped me out enough without needing to see the rest. Because of that, I knew you'd be the one to do the collection justice. If you want, I can call the artist and schedule an appointment so you can see the rest of it. That's only if you don't mind." Turning to her, I saw her eyes were glued to the painting as well, but I could only see the crimson of the painted blood reflecting in her eyes. She didn't want to be anywhere near this one, and I could tell. Or I can set that up. Standing there frozen in place with her gaze fixated, she waved a hand at me and said, "Don't be silly, I can do it." She turned on her heels and walked toward the front of the gallery, not even daring to look back at me or the painting. Her body was as stiff as a board as she moved, frightened even. But not too frightened to tell me she wanted details on my boy toy from last night as she scurried away. I found it funny how she didn't find me this terrifying, yet I had so much in common with the figure. Where had the artist even begun to get an idea like this without getting inspiration from somewhere? There was no way anybody could possibly know. For some reason, I was paranoid that my secret would be exposed. All because of a painting that there was no way it was connected to me at all. I moved closer to the painting, reaching my hand out to touch the rough canvas, but I stopped myself. My hand covered right over the painted surface, with only mere millimetres of space separating my flesh from the colours. My breath caught in my throat as I stared at it, and I knew I had to meet the person responsible for this beautifully disturbing work. That is when I knew, without a shadow of doubt, that we would get along just famously. I was the live version of her entire collection, and as I stood there, Hyde quivered inside my mind. She was thrilled to be the subject no one knew existed, not even the artist.